It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast on Soonerscoop.com. The entire crew joining us, at least for part of the show, as we've got a busy day ahead of us, and we just finished with another media session this morning with Bill Bedenbaugh. For the first time, we've talked to him in a very long time. Got to talk to Tyrese Robinson, Chris Murray, also Kennedy Brooks, the first time we talked to him for a very long time. So let's welcome in the entire crew: Josh McQuistion, Eddie Radosevich, and Bob Przybyllo. And I did have a little house cleaning item that I wanted to bring up with you, Josh, and since we're always accused of never bringing you on the show or into the mix, maybe we should just do house cleaning with Josh as our opening segment. Did you ever get the thing for your phone? I was noticed disgusting green text between me and my AC guy because he doesn't have an iPhone, and he probably doesn't because he has one of those Wallaby things that you put on your, like, it only works on Androids where you can see into your wall so you don't drill into a gas line. But did you ever get that thing, Josh?
Oh, I did, and it's amazing. I've used it several times. It is
that what it's
absolutely
called, a Wallaby?
outstanding. Wallabot,
yeah.
Yep. I mean, and it's super easy to hook up. Like, it was real direct. I was kind of interested to see if it was going to be a pain in the ass, but it was really straightforward, and you know, it does. I mean, it's not just, oh, there's something here. There's a water line here. There's a gas. You know, like it shows you more than just, hey, something metal is here.
Yeah, I've got one of those, and I've got an iPhone, too, so I'm better than you. No, I mean, I don't have one of those. I have a thing that will do metal or AC or pipe, you know.
Yeah, but you have to deal with having an iPhone, so, you know, live that life.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You don't get to just piss on literally every group text message ever. It's amazing watching all the little meltdowns. Green bubbles! Yeah, piss off. I've got one buddy, he literally melts down about it just about every time I text. So it's great. He listens too, so he's really going to enjoy this segment.
It's kind of annoying, though, but because then you have to see those. You can't just see a like or a thumb up. It always has to be like, Bob liked your message about so. And like, it's so much shit to have to look at. If you have
that is annoying. I will give you that one. My problem is the Apple people, and Carrie, you know tech better than I do. It's not an Android problem. It's an Apple problem that they choose to live with. So I'm like, you guys have created this. This Android will work with you. You will not work with Apple. That's different.
Yeah.
Actually, flip that. Apple won't work with you. There we go. That's what
I don't think either one of them will work with each other. I think that's the problem.
Oh, they don't like. Yeah. I don't think Android's losing sleep over that fact. I think that's a fair statement.
You're supporting K-pop though, so you're the most evil out of all of us.
Well, I've long supported that my dastardly nature is a really underrated side of this site that doesn't get enough play. You are often seen as the bad guy, and I think it's pretty clear I'm a much bigger asshole than yourself.
Welcome in Bob Przybyllo as well. We had some hoops news today now that Josh has talked. Austin Reeves declares for the NBA draft, and I don't think after the Gonzaga game that this was going to be surprising in the least, Bob, but at least we're starting to move forward. Not only Austin Reeves, but Carlin Hartman is going to join Kevin Kruger's staff. So we're starting to see the fallout from Lon Kruger's retirement.
That's what's so weird. The last time we talked, Lon Kruger wasn't even retired.
We just hinted that it might happen. That there were some,
but it's like that's how crazy of a week between Davion Harmon, a couple guys going into the portal. Now they've got Hartman and Reeves, and before the Gonzaga game, or even right after, there's a lot of talk with Reeves going to the portal and going to Arkansas, and I think people got in his head and said, dude, you're better than that. And what you showed against Gonzaga should let you know you're better than that. And I think he is. I don't know if he'll, how he'll make a roster. I think he'll get picked maybe in the second round, and then he'll have to fight for it. But he's got that ability, and I think it's a really nice move that he's made. And so now you're just kind of crossing them off one by one. You're waiting for Brady Manick, waiting for Alondas Williams to sort of make their calls, and then of course now you just all eyes are turned to when are they going to name that head coach.
Bob, do you think it's something that just as far as do you think Brady or Alondas would wait on their decisions and it being, I guess, contingent on who is the next head coach? Is that kind of how you see it now, or do you think they're still in the, I guess, research phase of making a decision?
Maybe for Brady, I think Alondas is out the door. With his athletic ability, I think he can do some things going overseas, and he can make a nice chunk of change. But for Brady, again, I always sort of wonder, just because of the way COVID destroyed the second half of his senior season. But then you also go back to the way that Lon Kruger spoke about Brady after the Gonzaga game. Basically, said flat out, it was all past tense. He had a great career. He wasn't even, going with the thought that there was a possibility of him coming back. So I think those guys are both probably going to leave, and it's just when they actually want to go ahead and make that announcement. And now you're just sort of waiting, because the longer you go without naming a coach, not only can you not bring in guys from the portal, but the more likelihood of seeing your guys go to the portal. We kind of joked about Texas and all those guys that they were losing, and they lost Shaka Smart last Friday. Now you're seeing it with OU. I mean, really would surprise me if more than 5 or 6 scholarship guys are actually still with the team when they name a head coach.
And Eddie, you had put it out there about a transfer portal yesterday, player.
Yeah, the Grange kid. What is it? AG Anyon Grang. I don't even know if he's a real person. It's kind of like Rick Costanzo. I saw him once. I think I saw him. I've met Bryce Youngquist, but I don't really know if he's actually a real person. I mean, I think that's kind of one of those moves, and along with the Trey Phipps thing, it's the portal has been kind to Oklahoma. It's just about getting back to getting in there and getting guys to join the program, and then
you need a coach for that to happen, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, it is very contingent upon who's the head coach, and thank God the Mark Turgeon. Thank God. I just cannot believe that was even a thing. I love the statement that he put out, or that was out there today, just as far as that was the classic, that school's not interested in me, even though my agent tried to get me interested in that school, so I'm moving on myself.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. Dana Altman and Turgeon, I'm not hearing it from within OU. It's being funneled to, Jeff Goodman, Andy Katz, Zagoria, guys like that. It's not coming in from the people that I'm in contact with, and that's why, I never really took that as serious as those odds makers did, for sure. But I thought Grant McCaslin was a slam dunk. I thought we'd be talking at this point in this stage of the week about McCaslin being the new head coach and what he brings recruiting the state of Texas and what staff he was going to build up. But, then, Kerry, you sort of brought to my attention, not only does it look like he's not going to be named, but doesn't even look like he was being interviewed. And that, to me, was the big shock, because that was the name du jour all last week, that even before Lon went public, it's watch out for McCaslin. This is the guy you should circle. This is the guy that if anything happens with Lon, this is who they're going to go after. And it just turns out that really wasn't the case.
Yeah, as of 2 days ago, OU had not had any contact with McCaslin, had not requested permission to speak with him. And people are like, well, the people just go through agents. Well, not Joe C. I mean, if Joe C is going to talk to someone that's a sitting head coach somewhere, he's going through an athletic director. I mean, he did it with Lon. He does. I mean, that's just Joe. It's just, he's on all these committees. He's so well respected. He's going to do things the right way. He's not going to negotiate, with someone's attorney and not let the school or their agent and not let the school know, that stuff is going on. So he's just up front. That's just how he is. So that is interesting. And I do kind of think it'll be somebody out of the blue. I mean, I really do.
Yep.
I think it's gonna they had those Vegas odds the other day, and Turgeon was number 1. You your odds, all right. It's just,
The
I mean,
people
like
that bet money on Mark Turgeon should be not only identified and then shamed publicly, but maybe tar and feathered.
they should be blocked from following Andy Katz, Jeff Goodman, and whoever else on Twitter for like a year as punishment.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, maybe I'm caught up in the moment, but I think I've talked myself into it. And we can get to the Eduardo Nájera thing in a second, but like, maybe we were right as far as looking at I-35, but maybe look further south. I mean, there's especially with the Final Four going on this weekend and the obviously Houston playing on Saturday. I don't know. The more and more people, I guess, you start listening to, maybe there is something, and they take a chance on a Kellen Sampson. I have no idea. I'm closer to thinking I could buy into that, though, than I would maybe a week ago.
What if it's, I haven't even thought of this name, but what if, he spent a lot of time in the same place, and it's not, I got to think he knows his time is running out. What if Josie approached somebody like a Terry Stotts?
I think there's very little chance of that happening.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, there's zero chance of it happening. But I'm just saying, if it's somebody that we're not talking about,
I don't think it will be.
Who is that person?
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be
somebody
a name
like
that. We don't know.
Is it going to be?
Talk about someone we're not talking about.
I joked about how Mark Dagnall would be a good hire because his wife's already at OU. That's never happening. But I mean, it's just a really off the beaten path thing to talk about.
I mean, what would you guys think though if they went like, I don't know, you're certainly not going to name a combo coach, but what if they brought Kellen Sampson in to be the head coach and Quantas White as an assistant or associate head coach?
That would be the move if you're going to get someone like that. You got to kind of have and then you'd need an older member as part of the assistant staff too. But
you think they would keep a Molinari around, Bob?
I think it would kind of be up to him, really, because his connections go with Kruger. He can teach defense wherever the heck he wants to go. So if he likes the crew that's still in Norman and thinks he can, still make something of it, I don't see any reason why it would drastically change on his end. But I mean, it just feel like such an end of an era with everything that's happened. I don't know if there's a spot for him when this next era takes place. Here's
the thing. People are against Kellen Sampson are the same people that, I think the main excuse I've seen is, we already tried that with Jeff Capel. Jeff Capel was actually a head coach before he came to Oklahoma. And Jeff Capel actually took a team to the Elite Eight. Like, it wasn't the start for Jeff Capel. I remember, that team had Tony Crocker, and, that team didn't. The year before they had David Godbold. But, it wasn't like they just had a murderer's row, that team. They hit some threes. Alex Spalding was, on that team. They beat Syracuse, early, and it got some momentum, and they ended up losing to North Carolina that year, who went on to win a national championship. It was just clearly the better team, clearly the best team that year in college basketball. And that team, I think, I can't even remember the players that were on that team. I'd have to go look.
It was like Hansborough and Felton, and they were loaded.
Well, remember that game? Remember that the Hansborough guy? He was scared shitless of Blake Griffin. He played a terrible game. He was intimidated, and he just wilted against Blake Griffin. But they just had too many other players. But what I'm saying is, it went bad for Capel because he started recruiting knuckleheads just because they had 5 stars next to their names.
Sure.
Right.
It doesn't mean the same thing's going to happen with Kellen. And look, I don't know if he'd be successful or not, but he's been alongside his dad his entire basketball career, player, coach. He's had to pick up some stuff that will make him successful. And I just love the fact that he would be a new age version of his dad. I think he would be a really good recruiter. I think he would be a good coach. I don't know. I would rather it be Kellen Sampson. Sure as shit, I would rather it be Kellen Sampson than Mark Turgeon or Dana Altman, some old white guy retread.
Yeah, they got to get a recruiter because Carlin Hartman basically recruited this entire team. And, so it's not like, Lon didn't do the heavy lifting there. But if you're going to lose Carlin too, now you need a head coach that embraces that side of the game as well. As much as you love coaching practice and coaching the games, you got to be out there. That's just the way, the nature of the business now. You can't have a coach that just really wants to do the X's and O's and that's it. And so, that's why we all think they should go younger. And that's why Kellen Sampson is such an appealing option. You feel like he'd do a tremendous job. And that's even if he didn't bring Quantis White or Hollis Price with him. You just know on his own, he would do the best job that he possibly could. But if you bring in a couple of those other guys, then you feel like you got a staff that can really go out there and recruit as hard as possible.
Well, yeah. And go ahead, Eddie.
I'm definitely not like just anti-Dana Altman. I think he's a great coach. I just think the time right now for what Oklahoma wants to do, 8 years ago, that would have been a magnificent hire. But like, this is the opportunity to get young. This is the opportunity to kind of, and if you look around at the rest of the Big 12 right now, the way things are going, and hell, just look up, up in Stillwater as far as what they're doing in the recruiting world right now. I think that you would really be missing an opportunity and almost continuing on what the Kruger era was. And even though it wasn't a bad thing at all, I think that you would be really missing an opportunity if you didn't go young. Real quick, Ty Lawson, Danny Green, Wayne Ellington, Ed Davis, Deion Thompson, Tyler Zeller. He was a freshman. That team was stacked. That North Carolina team was unbelievable. All right, I'm done. The best part about that trip to Memphis, though, was watching Tony Crocker absolutely murder Jim Boeheim.
Yeah, that was in Memphis, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. They were in Kansas City. Were they in Kansas City for the first round, and then it went to Memphis?
Yeah, they went. They lost in the first round of the Big 12 tournament in Oklahoma City to Oklahoma State, and that was like when everybody kind of hit the panic button. And then they went up to Kansas City. Did really
I remember
well,
Memphis was opposite them. They weren't in their bracket, but Memphis was playing, and Tyreek Evans was playing, and I remember the Memphis crowd. They were fantastic. They were just partying the entire time. And and
I also remember sitting around and looking at like the Memphis administrators at the time, thinking these guys are definitely cheating.
And the best part was
5 years later he got popped.
The best part was I was seated right in front of the Michigan student section, and they were talking so much shit to Blake Griffin before the game started. Even doing like, yeah, are you black or are you white? Like, that kind of stuff. And just trying to get in his head, and to watch them realize that was one of the best basketball players they've ever seen in person. It was amazing to just watch them be, humbled and humiliated. Because those Michigan people were insane. Like, you think of insane college students, they were insane. And then you had then remember what was it, Morehead State? Who was the one where Blake Griffin flipped the guy over him? Like, he grabbed his arm. It was like it was what Blake does, which is he knew what he was doing and it was dirty, but literally flipped the guy over his back.
Is Morehead State or Morgan State? One of the two.
Yeah. And that was a great tournament. I really enjoyed that.
It was a fun trip.
By the way, okay, so here's what I was going to say. I thought this was really telling yesterday. As I was listening to a radio interview with Lon Kruger last night. He was on with Ashback. And Al asked him what kind of job Oklahoma is. And, of course, he said it's a great job, great administration, great support, great resources. And he went through all the positives and then basically said, the arena sucks. Like, they have to do something about the arena. And guys, I think we're past the stage of eyesore. It's gotten to the point now where OU has to develop a plan. They have to, whether it is bonds or whatever, they have to start the process of building a new arena.
Yeah, the problem is, though, Kerry, is they've kind of backed themselves into a corner with the Blake Griffin Center, because you have that, and then you have the 2 practice facilities. I don't know if a full renovation of inside that building is the easiest or, quote unquote cheapest way to go. It just
there
because
is.
I don't
mean,
think they would want to go away from the facilities. They're better than what Oklahoma State has as far as practice, Jim. I'm not saying
right
by any means.
It was never unveiled, but they did commission someone to do a master plan, just like they did at the football stadium. I think it was at the same time. A master plan of renovating Lloyd Noble, and they have it all mapped out, but they never introduced it publicly because they wanted to do the football stadium. And remember, that was when Bourne was wanting to build his residential whatever that was across the street, where the reason they can't practice on their practice fields anymore. So like they didn't want to introduce too much stuff, because Bourne was not going to be behind it. So like they're like, let's just do football. We can probably get away with one thing right now. Let's do the dorms and let's do football. And they never unleashed the basketball one. But I've had discussions with Joe Castiglione about this. Like when they were planning it, he told me kind of the details about how they could switch it to where there were suites and an upper deck and reconfigure things. So it is possible to renovate that facility.
I know some honors colleges that they could knock over if they want to clear some space down there. I'll help.
And then the disappointment of that I-35.
Yeah, I mean,
arena,
Lon talked about
that would have been like a big shopping center too, and everything, and that didn't even come close to passing.
Yeah, that was disappointing, and OU was really behind it because it would have eliminated a major problem of theirs, which is a crappy basketball. But I mean, it was not startling, but it was really because Lon is not into running anything down. But of all the things he was critical of, he basically was like, "Yeah, it's time. Like it's bad. It's worse than people think."
I'm kind of digging on the post Lon Kruger like retirement era. He shits on the NCAA in his first press conference, and now he's trying to tear down the LNC. He might have a future in the OU athletic department if he continues.
All right, there it is, your basketball talk, Josh. We're done, and I think Bob's done too.
Unfortunately, I do have a Kennedy Brooks story going up. Really great interview. I thought probably the best one he's done yet.
No,
really.
He was relaxed, which was strange for him.
He was tremendous.
Yeah. No, I thought Bill Bedenbaugh was great today, Eddie. He really, and Lincoln's kind of broken down the offensive line and how it's working out, but getting to talk to Tyrese Robinson, really, Eddie, I think what I took out of today is Chris Murray is pretty much your replacement for Creed Humphrey at center.
Yeah, not only is Chris Murray going to be the replacement, but I think just as a whole, I think you kind of leave the 2020 season in which an offensive line probably didn't perform up to the quote-unquote standard. And, I think everybody kind of looked in the mirror and accepted that. And I'm excited to see what Chris Murray brings. Andrew Rame, it seems like, is having a really good spring. You can tell that Bedenbaugh absolutely loves what his future could be at Oklahoma. Anton Harrison is in the mix. He named off quite a few guys, and even a guy like Stacey Wilkins, it certainly seems like has maybe gotten his head on straight. More than anything, Kerry, I think that they're just happy to be getting back to normal. And I think it kind of was almost reemphasized a little bit by Tyrese Robinson, and when he was talking about just hanging out with guys outside of the field or outside of the practice field, being able to just kind of almost take their guard down a little bit. And, Bill said that they leaned out and you could tell Tyrese Robinson's definitely lost some weight. You could just tell in his face.
Yeah, and was it Tyrese that he said he's lost so much we're trying to get him to gain some back even?
I think that was Harrison.
That was Harris. Yeah, Anton Harrison. Okay. And then, Josh will love this. A lot of praise for Andrew Rame today, I thought.
Andrew Rame's really good. That's shocking news to me. I'm really blown away on that one. I don't think there is an uglier scar Rivals is going to have to wear on Oklahoma's roster than Andrew Rame. So that is, it's not often I'm in lockstep with OU fans, but that was one that I was like, we're just wrong on this. This is just bad.
Yeah, and you weren't afraid to bang that drum. You did that from the beginning.
He's just outstanding. I mean, when you've got a ex-NFL offensive lineman being like, this kid's unbelievable, as an offensive lineman, like, you should listen. And, Bob, everybody on our site tried to tell everybody, and there was just no takers. So what can you do? But no, I mean, guys, I've talked about it. I mean, and we've talked about it as a group. My question is, how do you keep him off the field? And how do you keep – I mean, something's got to give. You've got 2 experienced seniors at guard, but if you made me guess at the end of their careers which one is talked about as the best player, I'd bet on Andrew Rame 100 times out of 100.
Well, and Bill said today that he almost started him last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like they got to a point where he was almost like, I'm just gonna have to start this kid.
So between Marquise Hayes, Tyrese Robinson, and Andrew Rame, you're looking at like that's the trio of guards, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that Marcus Alexander doesn't come up because as a freshman, I heard his name several times, like talking to people that they really liked where he was going.
It's a good problem to have, I would imagine, and Rame can play a little bit of like I would imagine Rame knocks over to play center when Murray leaves.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that's where Nate Anderson's gotten a lot of time, so I don't.
That's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I don't know what. I mean, and Nate makes a lot of sense. The way they like a good athlete there at center, and Nate's unbelievable in that realm. So if he can put on the weight and be an interior guy, then he could be very, very good in that role.
Outside of that, I really enjoyed talking to Chris Murray. We've never had a chance to interview him today. Very humble guy. He was just very chill. Like,
yes,
that's the best way I could explain. He's just a very chill dude. Like he's
Cali bro.
He does not seem stressed. He
for sure,
total
Josh, it really was.
I don't know why I do this, but he talked about being a born-again Christian, but then I asked him a question and he cussed. It's like I just have a knack for making people cuss. It's the strangest damn thing.
I don't know about Eddie, but I literally never cuss except on this podcast. So it's you. It's absolutely you.
I mean, Eddie cusses all the time.
They took all the cuss words out of the Bible. That was lost in translation.
Eddie is like, he's pro-cussing. He just is. He's the most pro-cusser person that I know.
I wear that with a badge of honor.
We just made Eddie's new bio on Twitter.
He's the most pro-cusser person I know.
Shit, we might live in a world where I could make money off of that. I'll teach your kid how to cuss. Bring him over for an hour.
Unfortunately, people will take you up on that.
I know. Oh, that's a scary thing.
You should be like, you need a passing game. You need like your margin hooks, and then you need Eddie to teach your kid how to be foul mouth as he's scoring.
Basically,
touchdowns.
like a search firm.
So, anyway, by the way, we should point this out. Bob's still with us. He can't leave, apparently. I don't know what that's about. Well, Bob,
I got a few more minutes.
Okay. Wife gave you. It's okay, honey. You can stay.
Hey, he got the pass. It doesn't matter how it got here. He got the pass.
Oh my God.
That's right.
Band of brothers, Bob.
You two are just a team.
Thank you.
Of domestics is what you are. Domesticated bros. So, I mean, Bob, was there anything, that I kind of gave my thoughts on what I thought stood out. Was there anything that you really kind of gravitated toward today that you saw or heard?
I liked when Bill talked about Wanye Morris and the recruiting process and how he felt like Morris from the get-go wanted to be a Sooner, but instead he stayed closer to home. But now that he's here, how he appreciates Wanye always asking questions, even though he's a 2-year starter, and maybe there's some sort of arrogance you thought might come with that. Ever since he's gotten to Norman, it's just been about getting better and realizing how Bill can help him get to that point.
By the way, did it seem like everybody loved Eric Gray today? He got a bunch of love today.
There's a lot of buzz, man, that he's a dude.
There's a lot to like, is there not?
I mean, after you for those guys that saw Ramondre Stevenson a year ago, to be like, wow, this guy's really good. Like there's something to that. I mean, there is something very impressive about this guy. And maybe he's just a really good dude off the field too, because that, I think people loved T.J. Pledger, and they talked him up. But I mean, I don't think to this level. And it's only been one day of talking to people about him, but I mean, the amount of times he came up today without even being mentioned. Like we asked about Wanya Morris, we asked about Chris Murray. I don't think anybody asked specifically about Eric Gray, but his name came up 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, it was just a question of like, for Kennedy Brooks, how different does this room look compared to the one you saw in 2019? No Stevenson, no Pledger. But when Brooks started talking about Eric Gray, you could see like the voice inflection change. He got just like the eyes got wide. And he's like, that guy's a dog. That's how Brooks phrased it. And I mean, when you look at what he's able to do with the Tennessee line, that's why people were so excited. Like, get him behind OU's line with Bill Bedenbaugh getting it all straightened out. Then you could really see what Gray is capable of doing.
Well, and that's the thing about the spring game. I don't know how much we'll see those guys. It might be more the walk-ons. It might be that they just don't run the ball that much because they just protect running backs during the spring. But it is interesting because maybe that'll be something interesting to ask Lincoln next time we talk to him. Like, are you more physical this spring since you didn't have one last year, just to kind of get back into the flow of things? Because these guys haven't played as much football over the past 12 months, as other football players in their shoes, in the past. So it's like maybe they will play the running backs in the spring game. Maybe there will be more carries. Maybe they'll change things up a little bit. Okay, the weather is starting to get better. People are getting vaccinated. Everybody is getting out and about. I know I certainly am a few days away from being fully vaccinated. I think, Eddie, you're right about there with me.
Somewhat. Yep, we're getting close.
Did you get the second shot yet?
Yeah, already got the second shot, ready to roll. Okay. I was wearing dead socks when I got them, too.
Well, now everybody in Oklahoma is eligible to get the vaccine, thanks to the decree of the governor yesterday, which means people are going to be getting out more and more, and it's never a better time than now to go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. We even are starting to pull in celebrity endorsers for Dead Soxy. Eddie is the communications director for Houston, who is enjoying the Final Four. I think Dead Soxy might be making an appearance on his feet at the Final Four because they contacted us and him, and he was talking about Dead Soxy, and they were like, hey, give us your address. We'll send you some. And there's a reason why the socks are so great. Those things just cling to your legs like a vice grip, Eddie, if you get the boardroom edition. Those silicone beads that they talk about, those things really work. And right now, using the promo code Boomer at checkout, you'll get 30% off your entire order. Just use that promo code Boomer at checkout and get yourself some boardroom. But Eddie, get the no-shows too.
Yeah, I'm all about the no-shows, especially when I'm wearing the golf shoes, as I will be over the next few months with the Masters coming up next weekend. So, yeah, you can't go wrong with Dead Soxy, and I'm always pleased when I'm wearing them.
I was going to say, the great thing about the no-shows that I've realized, like, you don't have to color coordinate because nobody's going to see them. Like,
that's the best part, and especially for somebody like me that knows he loses socks on the reg, I just can grab 2 of them and go.
So you go mismatch no-shows.
I would say I do that 85% of the time.
I never even thought about doing mismatch. All right, go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Use that promo code, 30% off, promo code Boomer at checkout. And as always, stay soxy. It's pretty clear from talking to the offensive line today, Bob, like, that was something we kind of touched on, but like we never really took into account how much that season affected, or we never had a chance to really talk to players. Now that they're past it, they were pretty honest about, last year sucked and it really screwed us up, and we weren't as good as we should have been as a team because of it. Yeah,
and it just became so obvious that it was offensive line. I don't know if it was like that with every team. I really don't. But you could tell with OU, offensive line was hit the most by everything that they had to go through. And, you feel like you've got a sense of it when you looked at the weights when they entered spring, coming off a normal off-season plan, Benny Wiley getting them to where they want to be. So you get back to having those expectations, and what Bill talked about, mentality. That's going to be the key word I think that you're going to be seeing thrown out time and time again. But what I want about the running backs, if you remember, was it 2018 spring game where it looked like Pat Fields almost injured Trey Sermon for the season?
Yeah,
and they kind of, you always get those moments like that. So it is going to be curious to see how Lincoln tries to juggle everything when it comes to how to use the backs.
It's kind of interesting too when you talk about like Kennedy, and he mentioned today that he's still basically getting back into the fold. And usually I roll my eyes at that, but he literally is. Like, this is his fifth practice back out on a football field since taking a year off. I would imagine you'd want him to get hit a little bit just to get back in the flow of things.
I thought it was just interesting, him describing his decision to sit out the year. And not a lot of people decided to do that, but I mean, he was just one of those people, like he and his family, they were freaked out about COVID. They didn't understand it. They didn't know how bad it was. And I asked him, like, are you still kind of freaked out? And I think he said, I might get the vaccination. I was like, you sat out a whole year and you have to think about whether you want to get the vaccination or not? Okay. I was kind of hoping he'd go anti-vaxxer, honest, though, because that would have been interesting.
Just started rambling on, like, QAnon posts?
Yes.
Like, just get stuff off?
Talking about DNA changing
how
and stuff like
Mike
that.
Mike would have hit the leave button on that Zoom.
It would have been the last time we talked to Kennedy Brooks this year.
Might have been the last time we see Kennedy Brooks, if that was the case.
But you talk to other players like Tyrese Robinson, and he's talking about, can't wait to get the vaccine, or, it's going to be great not being in contact tracing. It's going to be great being able to be face-to-face, to go over, to other people's houses that have been vaccinated. Like, there's just a big, I think, sense of relief over this team right now because they do see light at the end of the tunnel that has not been there up to in the middle of their football practices to this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I had a good idea just how kind of messed up everything was last year and how much it sucked for those guys. But I don't think I really had any idea just how shitty it was. And I know that they're playing football and they're getting paid to go to school and all that stuff, but I don't know, man. It would have been just a fucking drag at the end of the day.
Well, I always thought about it as just because I remember going to get a COVID test, and I got like the rapid one, and it was after the Big 12 championship game. I didn't go to it because I woke up with a sore throat. And just the anxiety of not waiting for the result, but, going and getting the test and just knowing I was taking a test, and if I got a positive, what that meant, and, what were going to be the symptoms. Like, those guys had to do that 3 times a week, waiting to find out if they were going to be able to play. Like, the mental just pummeling that you would have to take in that situation. Like, today was kind of the day they got to admit, like, yeah, it was fucking terrible. So I appreciate it.
I mean, it just that would have been awful. I can't imagine. But I think Bill said it during his Zoom session, just as far as like, usually you get through, halfway or, over halfway through spring practice and everybody kind of not basically gives up, but your mindset probably isn't what it was during the first or second week. And he said today he thinks that they'll probably wish that they had 20 more practices just because they're able to get out there and do so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, how many reps, like Caleb Williams gets in the spring game. It'll be interesting to see, what Jaden Hazelwood and Trajan Bridges look like. Because they're good in practice, but they've got to make a jump, and Theo Weiss has got to make a jump. Everybody's got to make a jump. I mean, there's a jump Austin Stogner can make. There's Braden Willis. I mean, you go down that lineup on offense. There's not one person where you're just like, yeah, they got it all figured out. Like, they're going to be tremendous. Like, it's all a bunch of people that were really highly recruited, a lot of talent, that they have a ceiling they haven't come close to reaching yet. So
that's a great way to say that.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, no, I don't compliment you. I mean, I don't compliment you enough. So I wanted to weigh in there and give you a little love. But yeah, guys, I mean, that's, and forgive me if I'm a little repetitive here. I was dealing with some travel plans there momentarily.
Thanks for giving us your undivided attention.
Well, it's work stuff. I mean, if that helps, trying to get some games here. But no, I was. It's interesting to me talking about Spencer Rattler, because there are moments where you're like, I feel like people forget that this guy just hasn't played a lot of football. There were some moments last year where you were like, this isn't just like not to Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield levels. This is just not very good right now. And I mean, the talent's all there. I mean, I think we all expect that leap will be made, but it's interesting how much it's just kind of taken for granted. Like, yeah, he'll be that guy. Like, we'll see. Like, I want to see him do it. It's something that I think people just kind of assume because Lincoln Riley is Lincoln Riley and Spencer Rattler is so talented that it all just comes together. I'm like, that offense, guy. This is something I said earlier today. I think I'm more comfortable that I know what the defense is than I know what the offense is.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, the thing about Spencer, though, Josh, that I keep thinking about is, yeah, he had some throws. Like that throw, the last throw against Iowa State, he threw it into double coverage, got intercepted, and you're just like, yeah, that's what a freshman looks like. I mean,
absolutely.
A panic throw. But he also had throws where, he scrambles around and hits Theo Weiss, who just broke off his route and is just freelancing out there, and drops it in the bucket right in his hands, and Theo Weiss doesn't catch it. Like, I think about the pass he made. Like, I think the most underrated pass he made all year. You have to actually go back and watch it on TV to realize how good it was. That pass that he made to Jaden Hazelwood in the end zone, I think they went for it on fourth down, or wasn't that they went for, or maybe it was third down and they end up kicking a field goal, but it was in the very corner. Jaden Hazelwood got both his feet down, hit him right in the chest, and Spencer Rattler made the world move to even get in position to make that throw. Like, it was a catchable ball. Like, it should have been caught. It should have been a touchdown. You should have been like, holy shit, Spencer Rattler just made the play of the game.
Yeah, there is. He can do some stuff with it. Somebody asked me today, like, what would be his NFL career ceiling? And I compared him to like a Matt Stafford, like that sort of arm talent that is just, holy shit, he will do some things every once in a while that just blow you away. And again, I totally get it. Last year, didn't have a normal spring, didn't have a normal summer, and really just kind of got thrown out there in week one. Like, and that's not a diss on OU. Everybody's just living in that world where it was a strange season. But I feel like there's so much about Spencer Rattler that we don't know, that we just kind of take on faith is going to be cleared up. And I'm like, I believe in him. I mean, guys, you guys know, I mean, as a high school guy, I raved about the kid. I think he is as talented as anybody Oklahoma has had under center. But it's just one of those things I'm like, I want to see it, because that offense last year, I think because of Oklahoma's reputation, it was almost, like I said, the reverse of the defense, where Oklahoma's reputation overshadowed what the defense was actually doing. And I think in reverse, offensively, Oklahoma's reputation kind of made people forget that there were times that offense sputtered pretty badly.
Yeah. I mean, there were times when it was just completely stagnant.
Painful series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That second half against Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game, Oklahoma was almost non-existent offensively.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, and that generally never happened. It would happen under Jalen Hurts, but that's not something you would see from Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I was watching the Tech game the other day, and Rattler, and it's probably not a coincidence that things started really rolling after that game, but he made some throws in that game that were just incredible. The one that I thought you were going at, Kerry, was the throw to Stogner in the end zone. That's one of those throws that, I mean, there's not very many people in college football that can make that.
Well, the other thing is, like, what's funny about Spencer is he is pretty fearless, and he can make some throws that you don't want your quarterback making, but he can also complete those throws. Like, remember, it's another Big 12 championship game, but remember the pass where Jaden Hazelwood jumps up among like 5 people and catches it in the air, and he gets basically, spun around midair and thrown to the ground. But like, when he threw that pass, you were like, don't throw a pass like that. There are 5 people standing there, 5 defenders, and like, he just fits it in there perfectly in the only place you could possibly fit it in, and you're just like, God, this kid's got ridiculous arm talent.
It probably all goes hand in hand, but I would think that if they think, and you listen to Bill and he talks about the group that up front, if they're just flat out better up front as an offensive line unit, it's obvious, but it's going to make Rattler's life so much more easier if you could run the ball. And they just weren't able to do that when he struggled.
Well, and it was kind of disjointed. I mean, at times play calling was disjointed. I think Lincoln Riley was trying to learn Spencer Rattler. He was trying, and they never really had, like you said, they never had a run game that they just relied on that could get keep them out of third and medium, third and long.
And not to mention the most obvious thing that's out there, just as far as you would go through a week of practice not knowing who you're going to have out there and how to game plan for a game.
Yeah.
If someone gets popped. So, I mean, it's just kind of, it was a weird year, and you would think that they would take a step in the right direction this year, just as far as getting guys back. And, listening to Bill today, I walked away thinking that they could be pretty damn good up front. Or at least back to what you're used to seeing.
Yeah, because I even with Creed Humphrey, I just felt like last year was just a so-so year. I mean, on the offensive line, and for whatever reason, I think Creed was a little banged up. Tyrese Robinson did not have a good year, and they just never got into a rhythm. So it needs to be better this year for sure. Josh, let's hit the recruiting world a little bit. I know we got some camps coming up that we're sending you to. Going to send you out to California if they'll let you in. I don't know if you'll be able to get out, but tell us what's happening. And we've been talking about guys that are out there playing, and there's been some interesting stuff about Luther Burden that's been out there in Missouri and changing programs and all that stuff.
Yeah, it is. We'll start off with the big news. I get to go. I'm going to go cover my first Virginia high school football this week. Going to go see Kelvin Gilliam, DeMond Harmon, and the 2023 cornerback offer Braylon Johnson. So I mean, really excited. Gilliam's a kid I've been talking to for over a year now. And at the time when it looked like OU was a real contender, I thought I'd go see him last fall. But now I'm, get a chance to go see him this spring. So they're off to a big start. This is the game when I initially started talking to DeMond and Kelvin about what game I should go to. It was this Verena game that I'm going to be at on Friday night. And so really just excited to see him. He's off to a huge start this year. Harmon had a big interception a couple weeks ago. They are, Highland Springs is one of the dominant programs in kind of that region of the country. I think they're 3-time defending state champions. So they're a big time school. I'm sure even outside of the 3 that I know, I'm going to see some guys. The week after that, the plan is for me to go to Southern California see Malachi Nelson, see Mekhi Lemon, see Raleek Brown, see some of those big names. Like we said, the only thing holding us up right now is just making sure it's going to be okay. It's deemed safe for me to come in and make these trips. But if that all comes to pass, then we'll be there. And then the Sunday, I'm being a derelict father that particular weekend. My travel will be Thursday, Friday. I'm going to fly back and not even fly home because there's just no point. I'll be here for like 3 hours and then have to leave again. So I'm going to fly into Dallas, catch the Dallas Rivals camp, and then actually fly home on Sunday. So I think it's the longest I'm going to be away from my children for, like, I don't know, since they were pretty much born. It's been a couple of years at least with all that's gone on. So
they're sick of it anyway.
Yeah, no, they're going to love it. I mean, like, they're going to do pedicures and manicures. Like, they'll have a girl time. It'll be fine. They won't miss me for a minute. But, and then obviously, like you said, I mean, we're still seeing more and more visits coming up. You mentioned the Luther Burden news that was in Woke this morning. There is just a lot of smoke right now about Missouri really making a run at Luther Burden. And it's just a tough thing to gauge because the only people you're hearing that from are kind of Mizzou-sided sources. But at the same time, they're the local school. It makes some sense that they might have some insight into that. If it was a thing where Missouri was telling me that about a kid in Oklahoma City, I'm going to be like, I know more about this than you do. It's not really that way here. So I'm having to kind of feel my way through it. But talking to some people today, and I actually need to put some stuff up on the board to kind of follow up on what was in Woke, there is definitely a feeling that if anybody could turn him, it would probably be Missouri. But some of the people I talked to really think he's pretty locked into Oklahoma.
That history there, I guess it would start with Jeremy Macklin. Then you got Dorial Green Beckham. Missouri won that one too. Is there a win? I guess Deron Neal is the win.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That is. Well, I mean, are we talking about receiver? I mean, can we throw Dan Tapko in there? I mean, that was a big one for OU. Oh my God,
Dan Tapko. Well, who is the
Dan Tapko?
Who was the center that played? I think he's still playing in the NFL.
Evan Bain.
Evan Bain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Evan is one of the few guys that ever, because like he and I had developed a really good relationship through kind of his recruitment.
That one hurt me. Yeah, I remember that.
And he was like, man, like he apologized to me. I'm like, dude, you don't need to go where you want to go, man. Like I was just like, congratulations, but he was like, man, I'm really sorry. It was a really tough decision. I'm like, dude, it's fine. Like I'm sure there are some reporters you do need to apologize. I'm not one of them, so you do your thing.
Was he a coach's kid?
Yeah, his dad was the head coach, okay. And I know they went to state finals that year, and I think they won, but I'm not 100% on that part. But yeah, it's a place where Oklahoma has recruited and actually has had some success. But boy, they have definitely taken some hard beats. Marquise Hayes is a Missouri guy. Obviously Perkins, Ronnie.
Yeah. And the Ronnie thing that's a big feather in OU's cap in that battle is his brother played at Missouri.
Yeah. Hey, one of the best. I mean, same kind of deal. A real stake to the Tigers. Trey Millard from Columbia, Missouri, played at Rockbridge. Yeah. Why did I say Millard? I don't know why I said Millard. You're right, Millard. Yeah. But I mean, like you look at it, there's a good track. Donald Stevenson, Tyler Evans. I mean, guys that have played a lot of football for Oklahoma. But yeah, I mean, Evan Bame's a tough one. Marcus Lucas.
Boehm.
Yeah, Boehm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. From Lee Summit.
Mm-hmm. We drive through there, don't you?
Yeah.
Going to St. Louis?
I think that's right.
What about was OU trying to get the linebacker Sean really good?
Witherspoon?
Was it Witherspoon?
The kid for Missouri and then went on to the Falcons, and I think he's with the Saints for a while.
Yeah.
I don't remember them recruiting him. Like, don't get me wrong, really good player, would have been absolutely worthy of being recruited, but I don't. Let's see, I'm looking him up. That was
maybe pre-Josh time.
Yeah, let's see. He was from Texas.
That's right. No, I don't think he was offered by OU. I don't think I think everybody kind of ignored him.
It's
kind of like, I think Sheldon Williamson was the same way, wasn't he?
Sheldon Richardson. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Sheldon was he was an offer kid. OU tried to recruit him hard, but he was. I don't think that was kind of the beginning of the Jackie Shipp tail off. Like he would offer those guys, and you were like, "Well, it's Jackie Shipp; he'll have a chance." And then after 3 or 4 years, you're like, "No, he doesn't have a chance." Like it
shit,
sounds good.
This guy's not recruiting anymore. He's not. He's literally not going anywhere.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm hard pressed to think. Maybe the only guy I can think of whose star fell as fast or at a similar speed is the guy who came from, was it Georgia, and then he went to Miami. He was the DB coach for like a year.
He's Josh Heupel's defensive backs coach.
Willie. Yep. Because I mean, he was like all the rage, and then was just not anymore. So,
by the way, if you're out there,
dark days.
If you're out there listening to Andrew Bone, my apologies again. Willie Martinez incident wasn't pretty day. Not a pretty day for me. Carrie's an asshole.
I am unfamiliar with what we're talking about here. What's the story?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I yelled at someone.
Oh.
Really yelled at them.
Oh, that sounds right.
Poor guy was just an intern, and I yelled at him.
Oh.
Not Andrew. I said Andrew Bone. I
was like,
that's
our Alabama guy?
No, Andrew Ford is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I kind of remember this now. Yep.
So anyway, okay. So let me ask you, Josh, if you had to name, just give me 2 other big recruiting storylines right now that you're following.
One of the ones, and I mentioned it in Woke, is the kind of ongoing situation with Amari Abor, the defensive lineman we've talked a lot about from Duncanville, Rivals 250 guy, big time guy that OU's been in on for a long time. It's interesting because I talked to him some this week, and he had mentioned that he is not planning to take an official visit to Oklahoma. And a lot of people are going to read that, that's automatically negative. But he's a guy that really, like a lot of guys right now, he's having to really prioritize his trips. And he's a Duncanville kid. He's a Dallas area guy. He can drive to Oklahoma and go see a game, or he can drive to UT and go see a game. He can't drive to Ohio State. He can't drive to Alabama. So he's kind of decided to prioritize, like, if I can only take 2 or 3 or 4 official visits, which may be all I have time for, I want to take those to places that I can't just drive to on any given weekend. But what's interesting is he told me he probably wouldn't take a visit to OU, but when I asked him how many officials he was going to take, he was, it was like Bama, Ohio State, and I'm going to forget who the
LSU
third one was.
And maybe USC.
Yeah, and then maybe USC. And so, like he's got 3.5 maybe. So maybe Oklahoma sneaks in late. Now, I will say we have a source on the board who is very well connected that has said he will be there unofficially, I assume, for the Nebraska game. So Oklahoma's already starting to work that far out. And, guys, something we should talk about is the interesting storyline that has emerged about Oklahoma and any schools in the NCAA possibly being able to host recruits so long as they have open practices. And how Oklahoma's going to measure that, are we willing to let people come watch us practice if we can get the recruits on campus? Like, that's going to be really interesting to watch coaches kind of work through that decision process.
That means like now or next season?
I read that blurb, and I took it as that was possible. Let's see, I think it was Brian Fisher that put that out.
Yeah, that is who put it out, yeah.
And like I said, I didn't read it as down the line, but, I think it was – I'd have to go find it. See, I'm going to put this out there and then not have all the particulars. This is why we need Bob here. I'm totally lost. But no, my understanding is that was a possible thing. Let's see, because that's one way schools can get players. Yeah, like he's talking about now. Like this is something that could happen now. let's see. Okay. During the temporary COVID-19 recruiting dead period, may a prospective student-athlete attend an institution's practice that is open to the general public? Yes. Provided the prospective student-athlete's attendance is not at the direction of an institutional staff member and the practice session is open to the general public. So it's not as good as having a guy on campus, but you could have Gentry Williams or Talon Shetron or somebody come down and hang out and at least be a part of things to some degree rather than just completely hands off.
See, that seems kind of dumb, though, because you're just going to have them in the stands with the fans.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how that's better by the NCAA's estimation, but it seems to be.
You think OU compliance is going to be down for that? No.
Come on.
They got their work cut out for them.
I mean, they won't even let us take a picture of kids when they're on campus.
Oh, man.
We need to just hire some fans from different sections that have like really good camera phones and be like, just take pictures, man. You're a fan. They can't stop you.
One section, it'd be pretty easy.
Except Josh would say, "I'm sorry, if it's an iPhone, it doesn't count."
So true. No, I mean they're
lost in the translation.
Cameras are pretty good. I mean, I'll send you a thank you for my green bubble. Or am I a blue bubble? I can't remember.
You're green.
Green, yeah. Okay.
Green is gross. That's how you remember.
Oh, sure. That's, I mean, real mature there, pal.
I don't know if you gave us 2 storylines or just one, but I think it was good. I know you got daughters to take care of. It's getting to that time of day, I think, for you.
No, I absolutely do need to get to that, but they're, like I said last week, it's kind of things that are kind of moving somewhat quietly because, like I said, the staff is so focused right now on getting to actually be out there working with the team and doing things that feel normal. So recruiting, I mean, you're seeing a trickle of offers. There's a few new guys that have come out. Actually, interestingly, we talked, I know we talked a little bit about some of the offensive skill players. They actually made an offer yesterday to a guy from Jeremiah Hall's old high school in Charlotte, North Carolina, Vance High School. So that's kind of interesting. He's a Jamar Cain guy, kind of an edge. James Pierce is his name, and going to be an interesting guy. It's even more funny because he kind of looks like Clayton Smith when you look at pictures of him. Same numbers, same colors. It's kind of interesting how that all works out. But, I mean, you're not seeing anything too crazy going on right now. But, like I said, I'll be hitting the road this week. Should have some good content, some stories over the next few weeks. And, I'm going to drag Eddie to Dallas with me in a couple of weeks. And there should just be an absolute ton of guys for us to kind of see. And even should get a Gentry Williams appearance, I believe.
Is he healthy enough to do camps?
Oh, he's just going to hang out. Like, he'll just be there. But we can get an interview, kind of see where he's at, catch up with him a little bit. The last time we spoke, I ended up chopping our interview into, like, 3 different entities because it was like a 40-minute interview, and I never do those.
It's like a podcast.
Yeah, he and I just had a lot to talk about, and we kind of went over a lot of stuff. And it ended up, like, by the time I kind of got through, okay, now I need to actually sit here and transcribe it, it was like 2 weeks old. I had used 40% of it already and most of the good stuff. And I was like, well, okay, this is something better left dead.
Now you know how Bob Stoops Part 5 happens.
Yes, it would have been Gentry Williams Part 4. I mean, like, it was.
Now, how many microphone cables got in the frame during that interview?
No, this was just he and I on the phone. I mean, this was a stock. Oh God, can you imagine a 40-minute camera interview? Oh, that makes me nauseous. I can't even think about that. Do you know how many okays or so? Yeah, definitely. I know. That would just be running rampant.
Eddie's gonna have a.
Imagine me having to edit that.
Yeah, Eddie's gonna have a Todd Snyder supercut of all your definitely's someday.
That's a nightmare scenario, is what that is.
Eddie literally just got anxiety. He starts chewing his nails. He's fidgeting, just talking about the idea.
That's gonna give me a headache the rest of the day just thinking about it.
Okay, see, like one joke's enough, and then it gets hurtful, Eddie. Then it's just then it stings a little too much.
Hey, I did want to ask you because we talked to the defensive guys on Monday just real quick, and I literally just thought of it. What'd you make of the Marcus Stripling news about him moving full time to rush edge?
I think that's.
I say rush edge every time.
Yeah, whatever. I think it's interchangeable, but no. I'm kind of torn on it because I don't think he is a supernatural fit there. Because I don't think. I mean, Marcus is a very good athlete and he's twitchy, but I think the best bet was him going the Jalen Redmond route and putting on weight to play inside, where his athleticism really would shine. Because I mean, we've seen enough of Marcus Stripling. He's clearly a good player, but is he so twitchy he's going to move around like Nick Benito or Clayton Smith or one of those guys? I don't see that. Like I said, I don't think it's a deal where it won't work. I think he can be fine out there. But to me, I'm always looking for what's his best avenue, what's going to get the most out of his talent. And I feel like inside is probably for the best. But Marcus is one of those rare guys that lost weight out of high school. Like when I saw him, I saw him his last game of his senior year, and he was like 265. He had to have been. Now, he looked overweight. Like it wasn't all good weight. I'm not saying it was. But then I saw him, freshman year and even last year, you're like, man, he's playing at like 250, 255 at most. Now it's lean and it looks good, but I'm like, I know he can carry more weight, but I guess they just decided, if anything, it's a good sign for the depth they have.
Jamar Cain had kind of hinted like they've figured out that like 260 is the max that his body wants to carry. So it's like I think they just kind of gave up on the idea that he was going to be able to bulk up.
Like I said, that if that's the case, then you have to do what you can do, because 260 is, boy, that's pretty light at that position. I mean, playing as far inside as they've got that position. But at the same time, will he pick up some explosion if you drop him down into low 240s or something? Maybe. And then you can talk about a guy that's a really stout run guy. Could almost be I guess the best way to say it would be like a rich man's John Michael Terry. Like a little more explosive, a little more athletic. Not the kind of guy you want, out in space. Like a Benito. John Michael Terry's not making that interception at Baylor. Or, Marcus Stripling's not making that play either. But they could do some other things where they're a little bit thicker, a little bit sturdier than maybe Benito when something's coming right at him.
It seemed like after listening to Jamar Cain talk on Monday, not only can you see why he's excelling as a recruiter, but that whole entire group, I think OU fans should be extremely excited about.
And it sounds like Reggie Grimes is starting to take a lot of steps this spring.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that. I'm interested in him.
300 snaps are out there available after the departure of Joe Michael.
Yeah. And I think Reggie Grimes could get a lot of them.
I talked to somebody the other day. Now, Reggie Grimes isn't working there, is he? Is he working at Rush now?
No, yeah. I mean, he's...
Yeah, okay. Just, he'll pick up snaps. Yeah, I got you. I am hearing... There is not a lot of doubt on Clayton Smith. I have heard some buzz that's going to be a dude that they're,
Yeah, and you could tell that they were kind of, hesitant to really say what they really felt, because they, like Jamar Cain, not that he went out of his way, but there was not a lot of, I don't know if maybe they're just tempering expectations because they don't want another Buki situation on their hands. But you could tell there's some excitement there.
I was going to say, is he the most anticipated freshman, incoming true freshman on the defensive side of the ball? Like, who was the last